So, what a day. I'm sitting on the shores of Loch Lomond in my tent. It was a rush this morning. I realised I had not packed everything and wasn't ready, and all I could think of was I need to get going because I have less time running out. I knew it would take me about 6 hours to get to where I wanted to be in Balmaha. Very early on, had to walk through flood water, so I got my feet wet. The walk was beautiful, but I really started to feel the miles around probably mile sort of 10, 11, getting towards Drimmen. And then, I had this moment. I'm gonna have to close my door. It's proper coming down now. Wow, it's proper wet. Yeah, so really had a conundrum because it was almost 4 miles to my destination. I only had maybe 2 hours left to go before it got dark. And I went for it, and it was a beautiful walk. It was really hard. I'm, have run marathons, done triathlons, but that was really tough. One of the toughest I've felt. And then at the top, I was greeted by some beautiful views of Loch Lomond, where the sun suddenly came out, and it was gorgeous. And I got my first sight of, the Highlands. And then arrived in Balmaha eventually, and found a little bar and had some food, and then realised, I needed to find somewhere to pitch. Eventually I had to walk across a field. I found a great spot, wasn't sure if I should do it, but I did it. It took me forever. It was pitch black. I couldn't get my light to work, so I was using my camera phone. But eventually I've got it done. I'm all set up. And then I will crack on tomorrow. It's a pretty easy one tomorrow along the banks of Loch Lomond. So, after a jubilant night, I think, in the dark, putting up a tent and finding myself on the shores of Loch Lomond, I think I celebrated a little too hard with a cigar and a whole flask of unfiltered bourbon whiskey, which, when I woke up in the morning, gave me a right druth, as they say. But yeah, I woke up pretty early, probably around 6:37, and very proud of myself. Made porridge with cinnamon and peanut butter and an AeroPress coffee. So I was pretty delighted with myself after freezing my hand off with the propane. Feel fine, my legs feel okay. I've stopped under the base of Loch Lomond. Thought of climbing a mountain right now is terrifying. Anyway, I'm a quick snack and then I'll move on. I'm sitting under a crazy, beautiful fallen down tree. I have been going a wee bit mental. Feel like I've been plugging away over false summit over false summit, really going at a pace, and it just doesn't end. I've recited Two Haggis. I've recited Romeo and Juliet. I'm going to go on to some Scott, whatever I can think of. It's been a while since I've spoken in Indy, but I'll try and remember. Interesting though, I can see this standing stone on the horizon, just standing there alone. I'm hoping that in the old days, someone went, these poor bastards, talking to themselves and reciting God knows what. If I put a wee stone out there, that will say, pal, you're about to head over the brow of the hill, and below is Avalon, the resting place of King Arthur. Tell me it's so, standing stone. Tell me it is so. I'm here at the very top, Ben Nevis, highest point of Scotland, of the UK. It's fucking magic. Freezing cold. My hands are literally gonna drop off. I'm actually gonna put this down so I can put my hands in my pocket. What a journey it's been. from the lowlands of Scotland to the Highlands to the top of Ben Nevis. I'm sure there's more to come. Obviously the journey home, but magic.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome to the stage tonight's host, Andrew Cotter.
Hello, good evening. Good evening to the Barbican Centre. What a crowd. Hello, and hello to those watching worldwide, because there is a big audience watching worldwide, because we have a worldwide star with us this evening. I like the way I say that without naming him, as if people are going to go, who might it be? So we're going to be chatting to a fellow Scot. This is a Scottish takeover of the Barbican, and I'm delighted. My name is Andrew Cotter, by the way. I should really introduce myself. I commentate on sport for the BBC. I write a bit. I have 2 dogs who you may know. Those cheers quickly turn to boos when I say they're not here this evening. Some people are walking out now, so I would love to have all of them maybe with me, but it's not about them. It is about our star turn this evening, and I share a couple of things in common with Sam: the flowing, gorgeous hair, that's cruel laughter to start the evening. But yes, we're both, I think, lowlander Scots. I'm from the southwest of Scotland, and Sam is originally from the southwest of Scotland. But as Graham McTavish says in the introduction to this wonderful book, Waypoints, he says that Sam is a lowlander by birth, but a Highlander by inclination. And I'm very much the same. Whenever I can, I'm up in the Scottish mountains. And so I enjoyed reading this book immensely, because it is a journey. We're going to find out a little bit more about Sam, although I think a lot of you will know plenty about Sam already. But we're going to find out a bit about his life and about his journey along the West Highland Way. So without further ado, please welcome to the stage Sam Heughan.
Hello. Hello. Oh, Andrew. London. Yes. I think it's a kilt.
I'm not a real Scot, clearly. I didn't get the email about it.
You came underdressed, but I think he still looks marvellous, doesn't he?
No, that's a smattering of applause. No.
Yes. Doesn't he? Yeah.
The Scottish national dress of beige trousers. So, welcome, Sam. How are you?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, no, I'm actually delighted you're here. Obviously, disappointed the dogs aren't here.
Oh, God.
But no, really, really happy to be doing this with Andrew. I'm actually a huge fan of this man.
God bless.
And we'll get into it. I could actually just sit here and listen to him talk, his voice. Obviously, he narrates a lot of the sport on the television, especially the rugby, when Scotland clutches defeat from the jaws of victory. And
we do that a bit. How many Scottish people in tonight actually here? Okay, the noise.
One.
We don't travel well, so actually we do.
Well,
we do
for
travel.
tonight, you're coming to Scotland with us on the West Highland Way.
That's exactly what it is. Let us sit down.
Let's sit in these very small chairs.
I know, very low. Oh.
Sorry, front row. There you go. That's what you paid for. You can
He's
all go home
applauding.
now.
He's regretting coming and getting these seats here, but
That poor gentleman in the middle.
the Scottish remake of Basic Instinct is terrible.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Sensible chinos, you
That's
see.
actually a good idea. A Scottish Basic Instinct.
Oh God,
Could you imagine?
I could see you in that.
Thank you.
I have seen you in that.
Thank you.
I do as well. We all love Sam.
I'm crossing my legs here. Okay.
So we're going to find out where this love comes from and where you come from and where you have been. This is the whole journey. The great thing about this book is that it is a journey along the West Highland Way, but it's a journey through Sam's life. So that's the thread that sort of ties the book together.
Yes.
Good.
That was the idea, yes. And in writing, yes, no, it was, absolutely, yeah. I think, you know, I feel like I've got a point in my career, in my life, where, you know, I've had to look at my past, my relationships, my family, and it was actually writing Clanlands, which is a book series I do with my co-star Graham McTavish, and we talk a lot about heritage and family, and I knew very little about mine, so I started digging into it, and at the same point, thought, I wanted to do the West Highland Way. So it really was very much an organic thing.
Now, having read the book, I kind of knew, I knew you were from Scotland. I didn't actually know you were from the southwest of Scotland initially. It's not a well-known corner of Scotland, a very quiet corner of Scotland.
Very quiet. People tend to pass it by. It's the wee bit that sticks out, sort of like like a bunion or a wart. But I wouldn't say it's like that. It's a very beautiful part of the world, but it is kind of overlooked. But there's some great history there, and yes, I was born and brought up there.
Now, everybody has different routes. Who becomes an actor has a different route into the theatre or television or film or whatever it might be. Some don't necessarily come from very artistic families, but I feel that you did come from an artistic family, and particularly your mother.
Right, yeah. Yeah, no, my mum is an artist, but it's funny because I never would have considered myself as particularly artistic. She studied printmaking and probably a bunch of other artistic stuff that I just had no penchant for. I know that while we were young in the southwest of Scotland, she was studying art in Dumfries. And eventually we did move to Edinburgh for her to then go to the university there, or the Edinburgh School of Art. But personally, I didn't really think I was particularly artistic. I mean, I can't draw for toffee. Some of you might have a little doodle in your book. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
The odd haggis drawing.
Oh, really? I thought you were going to draw mushrooms. You seem to have
I've done a couple of mushrooms, actually, yeah. Okay. Not right now, before I came on stage.
This is what goes on backstage. Oh, it's been mad back there.
The lights.
So.
And Andrew,
Andrew did a little bit of
no
cocaine.
mushrooms were hurt in the making of this process.
So, again, I want to know how you get into acting. It seemed that you had a certain shyness, and that when you think of actors, you think of them as extroverts, but quite often it's an opposite thing, but that is where they can find their confidence.
Right, and I think that's absolutely it. I wasn't like one of the... There are other actors out there that are fabulous, and they are singing show tunes the moment they're born.
Name them.
I will give you a list. I should have put a list in the book. No, I just never was particularly outgoing in a sense. I was quite shy, and I think sensitive a little bit, and that could be to do with quite possibly my upbringing, maybe not having my father there, or I don't know. I just was always very sensitive to what other people are feeling, and I think it kept me very reserved. And then what I found was playing a character was that you can kind of hide behind that character and be yourself, or explore parts of yourself, the darker parts or the more interesting, weird, strange parts. But yeah, I think certainly. So being myself is very difficult.
And look at, can you remember that production?
Oh God, who is that?
Who is that?
No. That's actually John. That's from Outlying Islands, which was the first professional piece I did that we started in Edinburgh at the festival, and we toured down to London and around the UK and also Canada. But that was my first professional piece. Yeah.
We're kind of jumping ahead of ourselves then a little bit. So when you went to Edinburgh,
yes,
and you went to a conventional school initially, but then were taken out of that to go to a more theatrical artistic school.
Well, yeah, I guess, yeah. So my mum, single parent, brought us up, and we moved to Edinburgh at the age of 12, I think, and I went to a very sort of traditional state school. And we were very lucky at the time. I got a place at the Rudolf Steiner School, which I think is a Waldorf school. It's very popular in Germany. And they just I literally couldn't tell you their whole ethos, apart from that they allow the children to sort of develop their character more. You study a lot of other subjects other than the main academic ones. Every morning, just no matter what your exam syllabus is, you will do things like astronomy, philosophy, history, whatever it is, but you'll have a little bit more of understanding of each of these subjects, even if it's not part of your curriculum.
Yeah, and when you came to theatre, you were doing all aspects of theatre. You were a stagehand, you were doing whatever it might be, and you're observing from the wings. So it wasn't an immediate desire to, again, you look at a lot of young people involved in theatre, and it seems to be that, ta-da, look at me, the desire to, but actually it was sort of a more, a gradual awakening.
It was, yes, slowly building my way up there. Maybe maybe that's the Taurian in me. You know, we never charge straight ahead. We're that's all that astrological stuff that I studied at school. But no, it was like something I was really intrigued by, and I initially, when we moved to Edinburgh, you know, the bright lights of the big city, Old Reekie, as they call it, and it's a tiny village compared to London. But I started going to the Lyceum Theatre there, and we used to go to their preview shows. So Shakespeare would be happening, and then something would fall down from the ceiling, and the director would come on and apologize. But for me, it gave me such a sort of insight into that world, and I found the theatre such a magical place. But I didn't know I could do it. And as you mentioned there, I started working as crew, as a stagehand in a number of shows, and I was terrible at it, absolutely awful.
Yeah.
I sent someone to hospital.
What kind of? I want to know a bit more about that. Sorry. I'm intrigued. Is that? Are you a brunette at that point, or is that just the artifice?
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
Yeah, going a bit more grey now, but no. So yes, I went to drama school, and that there is the first production. I was in my second year at drama school that Philip Howard, who wrote the foreword to the book, he directed me in this show.
And this was at the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama, which is now the
Yes, I think you'll find it's now the Royal Conservatoire.
Conservatoire. Very
Scotland.
Scottish name, Conservatoire.
That's it, Conservatoire.
So the RSAMD is, it's a great drama school. It's akin to RADA down here. It's, but again, when you get in there, and you got in there at the second attempt, didn't you?
Right. Yes. Yes.
Well, I'm not bringing it down. I'm just
thanks for reminding
expressing
me.
facts. These are no, but that's in a way that's quite
Yeah.
a good thing that you don't get in initially, because you were told to go away and work on a few more things and come back, and then you're learning all the time.
That's right. Yeah, the beginning of the narrative of rejection, which you'll probably hear about. But yeah, no, absolutely. I took time out. I traveled a lot around America, especially, and thought, you know what, I'm going to really go for this. I really had a dream to do it. I had a place to do a place at university to do English film studies in Aberdeen. Thank God.
Can I just quickly
Is
say...
there anyone from Aberdeen?
Yeah. Okay, there are a
Apologies for
couple of
that.
people from Aberdeen, so...
I'm sure it's lovely.
it
The
is-
grey city, the granite city. isn't it?
The Granite City, yes.
Granite
it is.
City, yes.
It is
It's
very, very nice. Lovely.
I'm sure it's lovely
Around there.
at this time of year.
No, it is. We're not joking. It's lovely. It's just the people are awful. No, it's
Yeah,
not. I'm joking. They are wonderful people. I'm
Yes.
a West Coaster. They're different. They're hard.
Oh, they're lovely, aren't they?
Lovely,
Very,
yeah.
very welcoming. But no, I went to, I applied, didn't get in, but I wanted to go initially. There was a great, the head of, or dean of drama, was Vladimir Mirodan, who now, the moment I actually got into the Conservatoire, the Royal Scottish Academy, I was obsessed with him because he has this great stage presence, a great voice, and I really wanted to emulate him and be like him. As soon as I got a place there, he left and came to London. He now, I believe, he worked at a drama centre, which is nearby. And actually, we have Guildhall around the corner, which is a lot of friends of mine went to. But yes, I eventually got in on my second attempt.
The art of learning how to act, though, which is absolutely foreign to I would imagine there'll be a few actors in here, people who do amateur dramatics or some professionals. I don't know, but to most of us, acting is a very strange and distant profession that we can't quite understand. And I was intrigued in the book, when you were being told by a tutor that, as you gave a performance, I think it might have been Romeo and Juliet, that you weren't quite in the moment. And
yeah, it was terrible. I couldn't act. Yeah.
And she said it for the right reasons, though, because she's teaching you. So how do you explain being in the moment or not being in the moment?
Oh, I mean, so her words were, you cannot act, which is, for an actor or an aspiring actor.
She was from Aberdeen, I would
She was
say.
definitely
though,
from
so-
Aberdeen. Yes. Yes.
Take it with a pinch
I'm
of
not going to
salt.
name and shame. But it was, it was a moment, and I think, absolutely part of the process that they have there at drama school is to slightly to break you down, to take away all of the bad habits you've got and to really strip it all away. But I was never in the moment. I was always trying to affect a moment. And it's such a really strange, magical thing to try and find, being in the moment.
Does that mean when you're not fully inhabiting the character, you're not being that character, you're always actually aware that you're doing a process of pretending to be that?
Right. I think you mentioned it earlier, we were just chatting and about, I used to always be on the outside looking at myself, judging myself, and thinking, oh, that's terrible, oh, that's rubbish, or, we should do it like this. And you become very stilted and wooden, I guess. And it's a weird one, because actually as an actor, your brain is still kind of functioning in two ways, especially I find on television. I find a lot that half of your brain is in the moment and you're reacting as that character, but there's a part of your brain that's also computing or calculating, where the camera's at, what the other actor's doing, what your continuity was. It's really odd, but it's like literally your brain is working on different levels.
Can you snap into it? Can you? I don't want to be your Juliet, but can you? I really don't. Well, I don't know. Can you?
You're going to be my Juliet. So I was playing Romeo in Romeo and Juliet at drama school, and then I was luckily spotted by Philip Howard, and he graciously gave me a part. Maybe he felt sorry for me, but he gave me this part in Outlying Islands. But I'm going to try and recall a bit of Romeo and Juliet. Last night we had an event in Edinburgh, and it was fantastic. I did a wee bit of Phaedra in Scots. So forgive me, I actually haven't prepared this, but you can be my Juliet.
Oh God, Lord, Jesus Christ! I really don't know. I'm standing in a balcony, am I? I don't know.
That's it. Just look pretty.
This is either awful or wonderful. I don't know what it is, but where do you want me to look?
You can, I don't know. Just don't look at me.
Okay, I won't look.
Could be awkward.
You don't look at me, more importantly.
I won't look at you. Oh God.
No, come on. This
could
is
get
serious.
awkward.
Here we are. So
We're soft. What light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, who is already sick and pale with grief that thou, her maid, art far more fair than she. I'll be not her maid, since she is envious. Her vestal livery is but sick and green. None but fools do wear it. Cast it off. It is my lady. It is my love. Oh, that she knew she were. She speaks. Yet she says nothing. I will answer it. I'm too bold. 'Tis not to me she speaks. Two of the fairest stars in all the heaven, having some business, do entreat our eyes to twinkle in their spheres till they return. What if her eyes were there, they in her head? Her eyes in heaven, with through the airy regions streams so bright that birds would sing and think it were not night. See how she leans her glove upon her hand. Oh, that I fucked it up. It's been a while. You can't do that. You can't do that in live theatre, can you?
get into the moment.
Yes. It was looking into your eyes that did it.
Oh dear, yes.
Yes.
All the
Hopefully
time
no
what a
casting
glove
directors
upon
here.
that. I don't know. Anyway, that was fantastic.
That was fun. I haven't done that for a long time, but
Do you know how, do you find learning lines easy? Do you find remembering?
clearly I do.
No, I just... But it's interesting when you talk about being in the moment and if you're not in the moment. And here, perhaps, the fourth wall was broken, whatever it might be, that the spell was broken.
That's great, yeah.
In that when you, as you say, when you're detached from it, you and you did quite often say, oh, and a line has to come in from the wings, but that's part of being an actor.
Yeah, and well, I mean, going back to that, and actually a couple of these pieces, I think it's my love of language, and why I particularly like Shakespeare or poetry or anything like that, is that, I mean, it sticks. I learn lines every day for my job, and could be 6 to 10 pages of dialogue every day, and some of it sticks in your head, but others, it just literally, I can learn it, within a couple of minutes. It's like your mind is a muscle, and the more you use it, the more it gets good at it. But it's such a short-term memory that I've completely forgotten not only who I am, but the lines from the morning that I was speaking, by the afternoon they're gone. Whereas the language and the poetry, maybe of Shakespeare, I mean, I didn't prove it, but it does stick with you. It was 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, that I learned that. And it's weird that it just is sat there. Part of it has sat there in my brain.
And we're in a wonderful theatre tonight. And your first love, would you say, is, I mean, for all wonderful actors, the theatre seems to be the first love, because it has I mean, it's so very different to television or film acting in terms of the immediacy or the reaction of the audience. Is that still what gives you the excitement?
Yeah, so I definitely, I grew up in theatre, and I used to stand, I was an usher at the Royal Lyceum before I became an actor. I just wanted to be as close as I could, and I used to stand in the wings every night. I played a small part in a play. Literally, I was, the spear carrier, number 4 in the background, and they put me in a play of Three Sisters, a Chekhov play, and Caroline Devlin was this amazing actress, and I remember she came on and had the scene, I think, where she finds out either her partner has died, but she never had any words, and she had this really powerful moment on stage, and I remember standing in the wings, and it was so electric that the audience were all silent. And there's a difference between listening and watching. I don't know, when the audience are with you, there's this real tangible magic that happens, and I was so thrilled by it. And then she'd come off stage and look me in the eye, and I'd give her a little smile. And no, I mean, I fancied her a little bit, but it was just also the magic of that. And I just was like, it's so powerful, these actors, actresses, what they can do.
Well, she is our first special guest
yes!
of the evening. So.
Caroline!
And I suppose along with the theatre, when you're making your way as an actor, there are all sorts of jobs that appear. First of all, I mean, you were in Doctors, well, yeah, I mean, people sort of say, daytime, I suppose it's a daytime soap opera, as if, in a sneering way, but these are great places to work and to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the past, you had ensemble theatre. There's very few. There's, I think, only 1 or 2 left in the UK. I mean, Dundee Rep still going, where one core group of actors would then do a whole season. So you'll see them in various different plays, and they're constantly working. And that's how, I guess, actors in the old days used to make their bread and butter. I mean, also learn their craft. And I think, it's obviously changed now, but I can't remember what you were saying, Andrew. I switched off.
That's fine. It was leading to, well, when you're getting parts in various television productions, but
That's
then
right.
were you always looking to the horizon and looking to California?
Well, yeah, so I definitely, I was a jobbing actor, and for me, honestly, it had always been about theatre. I never really thought much about film and TV, and at drama school, we did a couple of weeks, learning to hit your mark and what it was like to act in front of a camera, but I had zero experience. I really didn't know what I was doing. So initially, when I first moved to London and I was auditioning, there we go. I'd prep so much. I'd go in for the job, being able to talk about the character and the period and the costumes and what king was ruling at the time, but I didn't know the lines because I literally put all this work into sort of preparation, but never really just did the job which was required of me, which was to play the part. But yeah, so it was a learning curve, and I think film and TV was really not something on my radar. I mean, I grew up with a black and white television that you had to, tune in, and we only had 3 or 4 channels. And then Hollywood did come calling, and I started flying out there a lot, and had a lot of auditions out there, and I was really learning at each interview, at each audition.
Yeah, well, I mean, this here is, this is not a photo of Sam's home movie career, which he was young and needed the money. This is when you were doing it, but this is after, so you had two sort of distinct spells in Hollywood. You went out there as a really young actor.
Yeah.
This photo actually comes after that. So your first trip to Hollywood was, as it will have been for many people, many young actors who go to Hollywood, was actually a little bit it left you deflated?
Well, not only that, it was so alien to me. I'd seen Los Angeles, Hollywood, on film and TV, but never really experienced it. I also arrived there very green, with very little money in my pocket, and I couldn't drive. And if you know Los Angeles, people don't walk there. It's not a place to get about. So I was completely stuck. I remember I got a cab on the first day to my first audition, and it was $100. And I remember it was like, that was all of my monthly allowance I had given myself. So I started traveling to auditions by bus. And if you know the LA transport system, I hope they don't sue me for this, but it's terrible. They don't really have one. So I spent all day, from morning, 6, 7 in the morning till 8 at night, sitting on buses going to Paramount Studios, going to Universal with a pile of scripts under my arm because, it was before kind of email, really. And it was really challenging, but also surprising, because when I would walk in, I didn't think anything of it. And the receptionist would be like, "Do you want to validate your car?" And I'd be like, "No, I got the bus." And they're like, "There's a bus." But it was a really learning curve. But yeah, and I was there. I auditioned on a number of shows, from Aquaman to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to just a whole number of sort of pilot shows as well. I went out for pilot season.
What is an auditioning process like? Again,
Horrific.
totally alien to, but horrific. And I suppose you come in and you see all the people that you're up against for the role. You see one
Right.
waiting and one coming in afterwards, and
Yeah.
and you're all as desperate to get that part as
Yes.
each other.
So I remember, I talked about this last night, but Aquaman, there was a TV show of it. I look nothing like Jason Momoa, but maybe one day. But yeah, I remember, and I'd been flown out for it, and it was all very exciting. And I went in, and you literally had to go into a room, and there would be 20 people in suits. I mean, it was literally, the director, the producers, the exec producers, the writers, the cleaners, the postman, whoever wanted to be in that room was there. And they all were like kind of sitting, like watching you. And I was even like, where do I pitch this performance? Is it a theatrical piece? Is it for camera? And then, of course, you're sitting in the waiting room, and there's, 6 other guys that look exactly like you. They're all clones, and you're like, oh my God, like, how are they going to choose between us? So it was kind of off-putting. But I think the thing was that I tried to fit in. I tried to be what they wanted me to be.
Is this where the Stetson wearing comes in,
Oh,
and,
God.
the
Yeah.
American accent?
Yeah. So I thought I should try and always be what they wanted me to be. And what I didn't think they wanted was a sort of semi-Scottish man in a skirt. They wanted an American, and I'm not. So I started affecting an accent, and then realized it wasn't that great. So I said I was Canadian. I mean, who really knows what Canadians sound like anyway? So. And then, made up a backstory about how my dad, which he was in his final days living in Canada. So yeah, that kind of worked for me. And then I thought, what would really work would be a pair of cowboy boots and a Stetson.
Turns out it didn't work at all, and your sort of final days on that first trip to America were really quite sort of reflective, and
Right.
and you're starting to wonder if it is actually the future for you.
Yeah, I did. I had a manager there, and I was, auditioning on a number of roles. I mean, even Superman was one of them, and sort of getting close on things, but just not getting there. And I just remember, I'd been, I was walking home from his house up in the Hollywood Hills, back to my, apartment wherever I was staying, and walking along Sunset Boulevard. It was like a Nirvana song or a Green Day song, Broken Dreams. And I got a text on my phone. I was like, this is it. This is maybe the moment I've got a job finally. And I looked at it, and it was actually my bank telling me I was like almost, £1,000 overdrawn. And I realized I had nowhere to go, and I had, no finances. So
Do we cover that in a reading, or have we covered it there? Would
it's kind of there in the reading, yeah.
Would you like to do the reading?
Should
of
I
that
read
bit?
something? I don't
Read
know.
something from this book, please.
You're going to read it. It's very happy.
It's
It's a very happy book.
most of it is very, very happy, but
It is.
for every high point there has to be, well, in every career there will be some, dips to get to the high point. So read away.
This is probably the highlight with you, Andrew, I have to admit. Just wish the dogs were here. I drifted along the Walk of Fame, where almost 3,000 cement stars in the pavement commemorate past and present entertainers in the world of stage, screen, and music. Patrick Swayze. I was about to do a little jig there about one. Maybe later. Yeah. Robert Wagner, Douglas Fairbanks, Kiefer Sutherland. Try saying that with your teeth in. David Bowie, Paul Newman. Tourists stopped and took photos of famous names, but I just focused on the fact that other lesser-known or forgotten celebrities were simply disregarded or trampled over. Dropping down into Sunset Boulevard, I passed landmarks like the Pink Taco, Chateau Marmont. But everything felt off limits to me now. Only a, here we go, cowboy-themed restaurant. The Saddle Ranch. It seemed like the kind of place that might have me. And that was because I looked ridiculous in my Stetson. I caught sight of my reflection in the window. The tourists at the tables on the other side must have wondered if I'd arrived for my shift, bussing tables. All I wanted to do was toss that damn hat in the bin. Los Angeles was laughing at me. By now, my feet were hurting. I'd walked a long way in a pair of stupid boots with no destination in mind. I was just counting the coins in my pocket, hoping I had enough for a metro ticket back to my hotel, when my mobile phone beeped. I opened my messages, hoping perhaps that one of my last auditions might have resulted in the break I needed so desperately. Instead, I found an alert from my bank. On learning that my account had gone into the red, I just wanted to disappear. I had zero money, no way home. I was lost in LA. I couldn't stop crying. I was a failure. Hollywood had spat me out. Boo, Hollywood. Yes. That's some...
Don't worry, you know how it goes in the end.
Some light reading for you.
Some light reading for you. But again, we're stressing the point that a journey to where you are now is, in any career really,
Right.
whether it's acting or not, doesn't go in a straight line.
It doesn't, and I was a jobbing actor and, had success and failure, and I was working, I would say the majority of the time, I was doing a lot of theatre back in the UK, the odd bit of TV or film, some more successful than others, and, but yeah, I really, I felt like I was getting older and I really hadn't sort of hit where I wanted to be.
And can you think of jobs that you did at that time, not jobs in acting that you took because you have to take it because, I don't know, you don't still have equity cards, do you? But to keep yourself in the business and to keep your hand in and keep your eye.
Yeah, no, so I mean, I did everything from, I was in London and I worked in, lots of bars and restaurants. I delivered sandwiches by bicycle in the height of winter around London, which was awesome, actually. You got lots of spare sandwiches. I worked at Harrods selling perfume, and then I actually moved on to the ladies department selling women's clothing, which was, I must have been all right, actually. They offered me a job.
Were you actually meant to move into the women's department?
No, I just invited myself.
Or
maybe they thought I'd look better in the clothing, I don't know. But yeah, I know, I worked in the NHS, I worked as a receptionist. I eventually at some point found myself as responsible for all the locums in the whole south of London, the doctors, I'm sorry, I'm apologising now, for their schedules and their rotas. And I just was like, what am I doing? I have no idea what I'm doing here. But yeah, I did a whole variety of jobs to sort of support myself. And the one that really got me through it was bar work. Obviously actors love bars. But no, a friend of mine started a catering company and he employed a lot of actors, I guess because we're maybe outgoing, and yeah, it was actually the lifeline that got me through.
Was that after because you went back to Hollywood? I mean, quickly skip ahead here, but you had a real success with a live stage version of Batman, first of all, and that took you around the world, so that must have sort of rebuilt your confidence.
Absolutely. I had been working in theatre a lot, and then I got asked to audition for Batman Live, which is where this photo comes from shortly afterwards. But it was this Cirque du Soleil style show. We were touring arenas all over the world. We started in the UK. We did the O2, Glasgow. Oh, Yes, not Aberdeen, I'm afraid. Sorry about that. And then we went all around Europe and eventually to South America. We did Buenos Aires and Chile and then up to America. Did the Staples Center in Los Angeles. It really was a magnificent show. There was, I think, 20 actors, 20 acrobats, and it was all about Bruce Wayne and how Dick Grayson becomes Robin. So it really was. It was a stage show, but with pyrotechnics and a guy that dresses up as a bat at nighttime.
I suppose all the time you're just you're getting seen. You're being seen. You're getting your name out there. There's a slight reputation grows. So then you go back to Hollywood. Yeah. There still isn't the real success, but you didn't feel so negative about the second trip to second.
No, things were great. When I'd obviously made some money, and eventually I left after about a year, maybe a year and a half of doing the show. I just wanted to really plug away at Hollywood and try and land something that could be life-changing. And I was going up for big stuff, but just never quite landing them. I got agents there, and things were good. But eventually, I did return back to the UK, and I was sort of back at square one.
I don't know if we have any young actors in here at all, but. There we are.
Congratulations.
Never underheard.
Don't do what I did.
So, but the lesson I would say that you'd pass on to them is, and from reading the book, the lesson you would get is that, you came back and you mentioned you're working in a friend who had been in the business as well, had started a catering company, and you're serving drinks. And actually, there was one moment in the book, which is where Richard Madden, who you may well know from Game of Thrones, wonderful Scottish actor, and you knew him,
right?
But there wasn't. It was there was almost a veil between you two, and he gave you his drink, and suddenly you're on the other side of things.
Yeah, we were sort of in separate worlds. It's strange because I know Richard, and we met a number of times. He actually, an ex-girlfriend of mine lived in his apartment, so we were pretty pally. He wasn't living there at the time, I promise you. Yes.
I kind of want that
actors,
story.
they're like, no, it was before, he, while I was still at drama school, but yes, I knew each other, and it was one of those crazy ones, I was at the Victoria and Albert Museum, and I told a story about how I was, pouring champagne for all the guests there, and I had this big, I don't know, what is it, a Jeroboam of champagne, and I was like, I got this, and I popped it, and the cork flew up in the air, and I just shat myself, because there's this huge skeleton of a diplodocus or a whale, and the cork, I watched it in slow-mo fly up, and I was like, no! Fortunately, it didn't hit it and knock it off the roof, but yes, one of my jobs there was to stand at the door and hold people's drinks as they went outside to inhale nicotine, which people used to do in the old days, and I was just standing there, and Richard Madden came up, and I literally saw him come up, and I was like, oh, brilliant, and I was like going forward to say, hi, Richard. And he put his drink in my hand and went out the door. And okay, he's a Richard. He's done. And then he came back and just sort of took it and left. And he just obviously was having a great time in his own world, working. And I was doing the same. But I didn't feel ashamed or angry that he was in this position or anything. It was just more. It solidified for me the fact that I'm gonna keep working. I'm gonna keep driving. I'm not doing what I wanted to do.
But that's why there has to be real resilience in an actor's career, because it is as much about the knockbacks as the acceptances.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's stupidity or
just a faith that you are in the right,
or determination or a stubbornness. But I do believe if anyone gets anything from my story, it would be that perseverance and hard work. I think it really does pay off, and I think I see a lot of young actors on our TV show coming up, and it's a really hard job. It really is, and to pursue something in the arts right now, especially, is really tough. So I just owe credit to them, and I think it's an amazing journey. It's a very difficult one. I believe you were, at some point dabbling in the idea of it.
I kind of wanted. I studied French and philosophy at university, which qualifies you for nothing. So, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. But I thought, exactly,
c'est super
pretentious. But I knew my dad was a television director, and he sort of steered me away from it because he said, unless you're really, really passionate about acting, then it's going, because you won't be able to cope with the rejection. It's just what you're talking about there. If you're still passionate about it, then you can keep coming back.
Yeah, and I think that's it. It has to be, I always remember people saying, have you got a plan B or what's your backup? And I was like, I don't have one. I just knew it's what I wanted to do, and I mean, as I say, I think it's about a stubbornness maybe, but I just was, you know, when I finally knew, I think I'm very lucky. I knew what I wanted to do with my life, and I know a lot of people don't get that opportunity to work in a job that they absolutely adore.
Right, in the second half, we're going to move back to Hollywood. We're going to move on to great things for Sam. We're also going to be talking about the West Highland Way. So just quickly, give us a quick teaser about this journey on the West Highland Way.
Yes. Well, cut to many years later, and I'm working on a TV show called Outlander. You'll have not heard of it. No, it's obviously changed my life. Oh boy, yeah, it's great timing. Thank you, Will. Yes, lovely. Yes, and I decided, you know, I've got to this point in my life. I really wanted to write something and also challenge myself. And the West Highland Way was this 100-mile hike and climb up Ben Nevis that I thought, you know what, it's time to do it. It's been on my doorstep for many years. It's time to face the wilds of Scotland.
Right, we're going to take you down the West Highland Way, up the West Highland Way, actually, south to north in the second half, and we're going to hear about the rest of Sam's now glorious career. But now, I just must say as well, the second half, a lot of it is driven by you and your questions for Sam. You may well have any question on any topic he's duty-bound to answer.
The more inappropriate, the better.
So the way to do this, we'll maybe try some of this.
We'll maybe have a wee dram as well.
Of the Sassenach whiskey. But for now, thank you very much indeed. 15-20-minute break.
Thank you,
Heughan.
guys. Thank you. You go first.
I'm going first, okay.
Hello. I was surprised you all came back, actually. There's no empty seats. Well,
I've gone smart casual for the second half, so...
Me too.
Oh, God. Sam has been drinking heavily throughout the interval, so...
Yes, so now we'll get into it.
We didn't get an introduction onto stage. I'll do an introduction. You know, there's an introduction voice.
Oh, yes, go on.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome onto the stage Andrew Cotter and Sam Heughan.
We were backstage and you were talking about, I think you talked about a bit about rugby, but he started doing his commentating voice. And here they go into the final straight. And no, you were talking about golf, but it was like I was there. I was literally there. I could listen to you all night, Andrew.
Oh dear. Anyway, we're listening to you. So I asked you for some questions for Sam in the second half. 1,671 questions.
Could be a long night.
1,673 now, so everyone just rein it in a little bit, could you? Thank you. There's some good questions. There are some odd questions, but they are the good questions. So.
I'm looking forward to that last one that came in.
Right, we will come to the questions in a minute.
Yes,
I do want to say, so tell us about that time you were in a supermarket and the call came, because when we talked in the first half about all the, you know, having to deal with the rejection, when you get that call that says, the part is yours, and we know which part we're talking about, it must be just incredible.
Yeah. So, I was back in the UK, and I was in a very, very high-end supermarket, a Waitrose. Yes, living in Muswell Hill. I know. I said times were hard, but it was good. Good living. I was in Waitrose, filling my basket full of the cheapest ingredients I could find, and I got the call, and you know, my amazing agent Ruth Young, who's another Scot. She's been not only a great guide but a great friend throughout my whole career. She told me I got the part of Jamie Fraser in Outlander. Thank you. Yeah, and you know, at the time, you know, it felt monumental. It felt, you know, this is great. It's a new job. It's good potential to do kind of well. But, you know, I had no real idea about what it was or, you know, the extent of how it would change my life.
Yeah. I mean, and pretty instantly, because you're there, suddenly you're going over to the States and you're involved in the selection of other actors. You're involved in that. You're now one of those suits sitting behind the desk, being terrifying.
Yeah. No, I was lucky. So the hunt was on for Claire Beecham, the lead of the show, and they flew me to Los Angeles this time, you know, first class. Well, no, it wasn't business class. It was great, and you know, I was there at Sony Studios, you know, where I'd been before by bus, and you know, invited in, and still sweating profusely, but I was lucky to be on board, a lot of the screen tests for these actresses, and all of them very, very talented. Really, for me, I was like, what are they looking for? Each one was brilliant, and there were some big names in there as well. But they couldn't decide, and it went on for quite a long period. And not only that, we were also auditioning in London. So I came here in Soho. There was a casting room up a very narrow flight of stairs. You take the wrong door. You didn't want to go in there. And I actually auditioned a lot of the cast that are now in the show, from Graham McTavish to Laura Donnelly to a number of the other actors and actresses. So, but it was amazing being on the other side now and sort of going through that process.
And again, every actor who's got a part will hope that something is going to take off and become really successful. But you don't know, or did you know? Did you have a suspicion that this could be pretty big? I
thought it would last a year. Two max, I had never been in a show like this. I'd obviously done a bit of TV and film, but this really felt different. But I remember my first day of shooting, speaking to my fantastic driver, who still drives me now, bless him, Davey Hollywood, Davey Stewart. But I remember saying to him, he was like, "How long do you think it lasts?" I said a year or two max, and we're now in our 8th year of shooting. And thank you. It is very strange because it doesn't feel like 8 years. I guess with everything that's happened recently with COVID and everything as well, time has just stopped or warped and become very odd. But it's been an amazing adventure, and as I said, it's changed my life, definitely.
And the author, so she knows how it's going to end?
I hope she does. Dear God.
Do you know?
It would be like an episode of Lost.
Well,
they don't know, and they're just making it up.
Are you in her confidence in that she would explain to you a little bit about?
Yes. Diana Gabaldon. Yes, I think she deserves a round of applause. Herself, this incredible, charismatic woman. She first wrote Outlander, the first book, as an experiment. She'd never been to Scotland. She, I believe, was in Flagstaff at the time, or she probably wrote it all over. But she saw an episode of Doctor Who, and there was a character, a Scotsman called Jamie Fraser in a kilt, and she thought that's a good idea for a book, and she wrote it as an experiment, and damn, it was good. And she's still writing now. She's writing book 10, but we've always been very close, and I give a little insight into the book in the book there. We've always communicated weirdly, kind of by Twitter private message. I don't quite know why, but we have these long conversations. From her side, it's very long, and mine's very short. She's very eloquent and will explain things in great detail. But it's been great. We've talked about everything from fame to the character to travel tips to everything. But she's been a great friend and always supported me as well. I think she's always had my back. I think she just didn't want me to fuck it up, to be honest. It's her character. She's like, don't you dare. But she has written the end, and very early, I think the first week of shooting, she sent me this email with an excerpt, and it was the last chapter of the last book. So I know what happens, and I can reveal here now that she.
Jamie goes to live in Aberdeen. It all ends. It all ends.
Actually, he's from near Aberdeen.
Exactly. So exactly.
Yeah. Have a lovely time there.
Goes to live in Inverurie. Somebody from Inverurie. Right. Actually, we've got various questions on this. We've got so many questions. 1,696. I'll try and flick through as many as possible, but there was somebody who's asking, anonymous, who was asking about the historical accuracy of Outlander, because it's so big in America, not so big around the world, in so many countries, but there is this romanticized version of Scotland, and we grew up in Scotland, and you know a bit about its history.
Yeah.
So how aware are you of it? I suppose it's like with a lot of costume dramas that they're dramas in the end. They're not historical documentaries.
Yeah, and I think what our show is kind of unique, right, is that it is historically accurate. Like the whole thing, we spend so much time ensuring that everything is historically accurate, and sometimes it can be a real pain in the ass because they'll come up with something that says like in that time period they didn't do X, Y, Z, And you're like, that can't be right. They're human beings. But of course, they were in a different time. They're living to different moral code. And also our show has also spanning such a long time period. We go from the 1700s, the Jacobite uprising. We go via Versailles and the palace there. We go to the Caribbean, and we end up now we're shooting for America in the War of Independence. So it's such a big historical show, but yet at the heart of it is obviously fiction and time travel, But it's amazing. So we sort of do all these different genres in one, and I think that's why it's people like to pigeonhole the show, but I'm proud of it, passionately proud of it, because I think it has so many different levels.
Actually, Leah from Germany has corrected me. It's a very Germanic thing. I can say that. Mein Großvater war Deutsch. I would say, Leah has said. Leah has said.
Ein bisschen.
What was the audition like for Outlander? Because we skipped over that a little bit.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You're pretty confident about it after doing it.
Yeah. So I just come back, obviously, from America, and got sent this script, and it was, I think, about 12 pages of dialogue. It was massive, and it was. I quickly went out and found out it was from a book called Outlander, actually called Cross Stitch was the British title, sped read it, got through it, and realized they'd just taken scenes from the book, literally, and I had to go in and did the audition. I just felt, weirdly, I said this last night, I felt like Jamie Fraser was kind of a part of every character I've played, weirdly. I felt like, there were parts of his stillness or his strength from theatrical plays, his dialogue, the way they speak, maybe Shakespeare, or there were just so many elements to it that I felt like, I wouldn't say he's Batman, but he's close. But there's just definitely a lot of different characters I played. So I felt confident, and I also felt I need to be comfortable when I'm performing, I need to be in a safe environment. And I was very lucky. I'd moved to London with a bunch of other Scottish actors. And I think as we got off the train at Euston, we just decided to go a little bit north, closer to Scotland, and settled there. So in North London, there's a bunch of Scottish actors. And one in particular, Jim Sturgeon, he was at drama school with me, and he was actually called in to read opposite me in my audition, and that gave me so much confidence because I felt comfortable with him, obviously.
Yeah. Again, I'm going to go to the questions because so many of you have asked them. So listen, we'll go on to a bit onto the West Highland Way, because this book, as I said, it's going backwards and forwards into your career and onto the West Highland Way. I suppose it's a journey of self-discovery and, as you say, reflection. But then Michelle wants to know, how did you cope with the cold weather? I don't know where Michelle is, but it's not really the cold in Scotland, is it? It's the wet, as you might have heard.
Wet. It gets in your bones. Yes, it was. I did this journey kind of on a whim, something I've always wanted to do. Gave myself, 5 days to do it, and thought I'll smash it. It's not really that difficult. It was this time last year, the night before Halloween, and I set off. I had this week gap between work, and I really was unprepared. I went to the local outdoor centre and just bought everything. It was one of those places that has different sort of genres. You've got the mountain biking, and you've got the rock climbing, and the camping, and the all these things. So I just wanted everything. So I was just getting all the things, and the camping stove, and the AeroPress. And so I took far too much stuff, and the first 2 days were just miserable, awful. The weather was terrible. It rained very hard, and by the end of day one, my sleeping bag, my clothes were all drenched, and there was no way I was going to get dry. So don't do it, is my advice.
Well, again, you see the romanticized version of Scotland, and that's what we do on Instagram and social media all the time. You see a place in the world, and you think, that looks beautiful.
Yes.
But we're always just seeing the beautiful shots. You don't see the
Well,
midges as well.
The midges. But it's interesting. So when we shoot Outlander, the west coast of Scotland especially, it rains practically every day. And it'll be sunny, and then maybe snowing and windy, and then raining again. But the rain doesn't show up on camera. It really doesn't. So we can be shooting in sideways rain, and it still looks like a balmy summer's day. And to get rain on camera, they literally have to drench you. They get these rain machines, and they're pouring buckets of water on you. And then you're like, yeah, this is miserable. And then when it's not raining, the midges are out. So yeah, Scotland's not a great advert for Scotland, is it?
We just want you to stay away. Everyone, we want it for ourselves.
We
basically.
want it for ourselves, yes.
So when did you know it was starting to really succeed, Outlander. And you talked about, you know, being recognized from the guy who is serving drinks and trying to get work. Then suddenly, you know, there are people perhaps confusing you with Jamie Fraser as well. It's a strange, you know, thing to occupy that as an actor.
I mean, it's hard to confuse us. He's ginger. Has a lot
Somebody
more hair.
has asked what your natural hair color is, and
My natural hair color. It's probably grey now, isn't it? But no, I'm a dirty blonde.
well, that's Sam
they
Heughan
have a
saying
lot more
I'm a
fun,
dirty blonde
yes,
for
yes.
you, so that's what you've come for.
But and he's an inch taller, and I was told I wasn't tall enough when I first got the part. But no, I mean, I think you know, I think I really realized we had been shooting, I think maybe 4 episodes in, and we obviously are in a bit of a bubble in Scotland, kind of away from the rest of the world and the anticipation of the show. And so we did an event. I write about it in the book, and just turning up and seeing, you know, a number, you know, thousands of people sort of lining up the streets, and we were like, what is this? And I guess, you know, Diana wrote those books, you know, over 20 years ago. People have been anticipating seeing those characters come to life, and with that comes a great responsibility. So I think at that point I absolutely emptied my bowels out on the stage.
Tell us about your relationship with Graham McTavish then, because
do I have to?
yes, because
Graham's
you've done.
fan clubs here. Yes. They're all wearing smoking jackets and slippers.
Well, there's Outlander, there's Men in Kilts, there's the book Clanlands, there's, you know, and I don't want to project onto it, but he's an old man. He's he's not
he's
here.
gonna love you for
no, I'm
that.
saying, do you? He's great. He's
Hot.
a hot old man.
Hot old man. Hot and angry old
I
man.
model my look on Graham McTavish.
Yes, I think
so-
we all want to be there. Yeah.
But do you see him as, he's a friend, but almost, you know, in some way a sort of mentor? And I don't want to say, you know, he's a father figure to you, because you talk about your father in the book who wasn't there, and as Graham sort of filled partly that role.
I like that.
Share
that
with us,
psychology
Sam.
you've got there. To be honest, I just like winding him up and taking the piss. But no, he plays, well, in Outlander he played Dougal Mackenzie, the great warrior, you know, and actually in real life we call him Lady McTavish. Because the man is, he plays all these very sort of butch characters. He's now in the new Game of Thrones, in House of Dragons, and he plays a number of great roles. He's very, very busy. It's fantastic. But yes, in real life, the man doesn't like to do many takes. He feigns injury a lot. And even in season 1, where we did this big shinty game where we're playing this game of shinty, and it was pretty aggressive, like a game of rugby. I wish you'd been there to commentate. Oh my God. And here they are coming down the side, and he's got a shinty stick. And Graham McTavish did 2 takes, maybe 3, and then, oh God, my hamstring, oh. And then he was sitting in the wings on a stool, eating all of the snacks while his stunt double did everything. And the rest of us all day. But there's something about the man. I really do adore him. He's got the biggest heart. He's very generous. He's a sweetheart, and he's very funny. And I do love to wind him up. It's a joy. And that's where my TV show Men in Kilts came from. Literally my joy of just taking the piss.
Should we hear from him then?
He has sent a message. I know you don't want to see it, but we'll play it just so his ego is stroked, so he's not left out.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I do wish very, very much. Obviously, I wasn't invited, but I do wish very much that I was there to join you to talk about Sam's wonderful new book. Again, I haven't read it, so I'm just guessing, but it's an interesting title. Let's start with that. I mean, I was puzzled when he said, I'm writing a book called What's the Point? And I just thought, interesting kind of angle on your life. And then I realized that actually what Sam was doing was writing a work of fiction. So good luck with that, Sam. I think it's great that you're going into the fictional world. This whole story of, what was it, the West Highland Way that you walked on? I think we know the truth about that. I wish I could be there, but For a lot of reasons, I can't. One of which I'm still actually in a kind of recovery process from our recent Men in Kilts filming experience, which you will all hopefully see in due course. Sam and I actually are working on something together remotely. That's often the best way with Sam. It's good that you have at least 1,000 miles between you. That was also the advice of my therapist, who didn't expect me to do another project with Sam, but when I told her, and after she'd stopped weeping, she said, "You have to do what you have to do, Graham," which I didn't quite understand, but anyway. But that's all to say, wish I was there, buddy. My therapist says it's not a good idea. I'm kind of okay with that. Good luck. What's the Point is going to be a massive, massive hit. Cheers.
Thank you, Graham. I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him.
Good old Graham. Good old Graham.
Good
Very
old
handsome,
Graham.
handsome
Yes.
old man.
Yes. No, we've just finished shooting Men in Kilts in New Zealand. Obviously, we did the first season in Scotland and had such a blast. And with COVID and everything, it felt the only place we really could shoot at the time and with our schedules was New Zealand. And it was, honestly, it's been such a blast. So I can't wait for you guys to see it. It's great fun.
Excellent. We're looking forward to that. Men in Kilts in New Zealand. New Zealand is, the South Island is basically, yeah, exactly. The South Island is Scotland on steroids.
It's Scotland on steroids. That's something that we say a lot. Yes, it is. It looks like it. There's a lot of places named after. I mean, Dunedin, obviously named after Edinburgh, and even the street names. It's really odd. You're walking around Dunedin and you see Princess Street, and I don't think there's a Royal Mile, is there? But there's certainly a lot of familiar places, and even have a statue of Rabbie Burns up there as well.
They are Scottish people who learned how to play rugby well. So
Yes.
Right. Questions. Paulina, what's your favourite place in Scotland?
Oh, that's a good question. My favourite place, I mean, I do love the islands. The Isle of Skye, obviously, is a favourite. Become quite touristic now, but we do visit that in Men in Kilts the first season. But actually, going back to Edinburgh, I obviously moved there as a teenager, and I just love that city. The wines, the closes, going off the Royal Mile, especially the city underneath the city, which we actually shot in for Men in Kilts. It didn't make it to the edit, but Mary King's Close, and when they had this the city, and it's still there. You can go. There's streets underneath there and shops and everything. It's terrifying. It's like something out of Harry Potter. It really is. And I think if you've not been, please visit Edinburgh.
Where do you see yourself in 15 years' time? I did have the name of the person who asked that, but I can't find it.
It's probably Graham McTavish.
What's Outlander, as you said, you know how it's going to end, or we know it's going to end, but what next after that?
Good question. Yeah, no, I mean, the story will have to end at some point, and I don't know when that is. We still have a long way to go. We're shooting season 7 right now. We finish. Thank you. It's season 7 XL. It's 16 episodes. The last season we only did 8 due to the pandemic, and also my wonderful co-star, who must get a big shout out, Katrina Baff. She was pregnant at the time. Yes, congratulations, Katrina. And so we had to cut short, and so this is going to be an extended season, and it's fantastic. There's a lot going on, and we're at book 7, book 8, so there's still time. But I have obviously Men in Kilts coming out, and I have a great project coming up at the beginning of next year, a movie coming out with Priyanka Chopra and Celine Dion. Yes, it's all coming back to me now. She's fantastic in this. It's her acting debut, and she's written a number of original songs for the movie. It's a real celebration of her music as well. So it's a real feel-good movie.
It was Kathy from Pittsburgh who asked
Kathy,
that question.
thank
So
you.
Kathy,
Pittsburgh, I've been to
good
Pittsburgh.
question.
Lovely.
Looking ahead. So let's go back to the West Highland Way, because
Yes.
well, again, you read the book or listen to the book, and Sam has done the audiobook version of it, and it's I listened to it and I was transported. But again, you do talk to mushrooms quite a lot in the book. But as you get to there were a couple of people you met on the walk. I mean, I think you're a little bit like me. I go into the mountains to escape and be with because I have so many friends. It's just, I like to get away.
You're
Now,
a
I go-
social butterfly.
Anyway,
That's
but
it.
you do, you escape into the silence,
Right.
don't you, a little bit? But there were two people you met on the walk.
Right, absolutely, and it's coming. It's coming, Lucy. I did. You know, I want to do this solitary walk and get away and reflect a bit on my life. And I was like, I'm going to do this. It's, you know, I'm going into nature and be a mountain man. And of course, failed at that miserably. And on the second day, I was really ready to give up. The weather was atrocious. I found myself lost on the shores of Loch Lomond at night time. I met a gentleman who helped me through it with the aid of his great banter and chat and a Yorkie bar, which was fantastic. But when I met him, the first thing he said to me was, "Oh, I saw your SAS movie. What a load of shite." I thought, this is a companion I can walk with. So Graham Robertson, really, we got through that day, and we met up again later on in the walk. And I think that's what you find with, especially the West Highland Way, you cross paths with people and you form relationships. Cut to the last day of the walk, and I was really losing my mind. I'd been out in the wilderness on my own for a number of days. I was talking to the mushrooms and the trees and speaking out Shakespeare, not very well, to myself. At which point I was surprised by a young lady, and we did walk a short distance together. So I would actually want to introduce you to her, because I think it was really interesting to hear from her about walking the West Highland Way on her own, and she did it faster than me. So Lucy, can I ask you to come and join us?
Where
Or
is
has she gone
Lucy,
home?
who's on the... What?
Yes,
Oh, here she
Lucy.
comes.
This is fantastic. You're so brave. Well, there's you, Lucy. Thank you for doing this. I know this is really weird. There's a lot of people. Don't worry, they're all your friends. Here you
So,
go.
hello, Lucy. How are you?
We got you a very small chair that actually matches your outfit.
It's taller than your chair.
It
so.
is, yes. So Lucy, we met on the last.
Lucy's actually just disappeared into that chair.
Yes, where are you? Yes, you're at one with nature, which you were actually on the walk. And so we met, and at that point we met, I was actually taking a selfie with a mushroom. Things had got a little bit strange, but we started chatting and walking, and I was determined to walk faster than you, which I couldn't do. So tell us, you were walking on your own. How many days did you do it in?
4.
Yep.
I'll be honest, I 100% recommend the West Highland Way.
Yeah.
I do not recommend doing it in 4 days.
No, you said you were in a lot of pain. I actually included some of your tips at the end of the book. They're very funny, but I think amongst them all is, it's okay to cry.
Yeah.
It's okay to talk to yourself, or mushrooms.
Yeah.
What else? What are the other points? I think never take a drink with a Scotsman.
Yeah, a wee dram of whiskey from a Scotsman is never just a wee dram.
Yes. So we did actually finish at different times. We met up in Fort William, which is at the end at the base of Ben Nevis there, and we went for one whiskey.
So, Lucy, did you know who Sam was when you met him on the West Highland Way? What?
Did you? That's an interesting question.
Are you trying to drop me in it?
I don't know. I don't. You know what? Just to be honest.
To my shame, I had never seen Outlander.
Mm-hmm. Shame on you, shame.
It's not going to go down well in this
Get
room,
thee
is it?
gone.
Yeah. So we were chatting away.
Yeah.
This guy that I just found lying on the floor taking a selfie with a mushroom.
Is that true? Was he actually lying on the ground taking a selfie?
I thought he'd fallen
with a mushroom?
over.
Yes.
He had fallen over. That was his. He said,
Yes. There's actually, I think, the pictures in the book.
And we were chatting, small talk. Also, what do you do? And Sam said, "Oh, I'm an actor, actually." I was like, "Oh, okay." Thinking,
You're like, oh God, another one.
jobbing actor for Edinburgh. Just
Good luck with that. Yeah.
taking some time out of actually waiting tables to do a little walk in the Highlands. I had no idea.
No idea that I was still speaking to mushrooms, but yes. No, I mean, we did, but we chatted a bit, and we were walking towards Ben Nevis, and at some point I was like, no, I'm going to let her go ahead because I want this little me time. And you went ahead, you got a great pace on you, and I was like, Jesus, she's fast. And I carried on walking later on that day, and I saw Ben Nevis, and I was utterly, I don't know why, I was so blown away. This massive mountain, just incredible sight, and I was so excited, and all I wanted to do was share it with someone. and there was no, and I was just like, I have to find Lucy. I have to share it with you. And I ran after you. I tried to catch up, and we did eventually catch up. But there's something about that walk that you want to share with people.
Was she running away from you at this
Yes, she got faster and faster.
I'm hiding in a bush, just watching you run
But
past.
there's something about that walk, isn't it? Even though you can do it on your own and you go out there solitary, but you still want to share it with people, don't you?
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah, 4 days on your own. By halfway through day 2, I was completely insane. So I was taking videos of myself, like talking video diaries, mostly just to have someone to talk to more than anything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, to have someone else to share the madness with was...
Well, that's actually what I did. So writing the book, I recorded voice notes that we played like 3 or 4 of them before the show, but I recorded over like 300 of these voice notes, primarily because I knew I was writing the book, but also it was a way to just document and work through a process for myself. But there is something about walking, isn't it? It's very therapeutic once you get into the rhythm of it. The first 2 days I was fighting it, and then once I relaxed and got into it, I really enjoyed it. And of course, the mushrooms.
Lucy, have you binge watched Outlander since?
Oh, come on.
You can lie at this point. I don't
No.
know.
No, she hasn't. That's great.
I've
Well,
read the
thanks for
book,
coming,
though.
Lucy. That was lovely to meet you.
I've read the book.
Yeah, you have you?
Yeah, really quickly.
Wow.
I didn't get sent the audiobook. I could have done with the audiobook, to be fair.
Oh, it would take a long
I'm a
time.
very slow reader.
Well,
Excellent.
yes.
What's your next outdoors challenge,
Yes.
Lucy?
I'm going to write my own book.
You should. But you sent me firstly, you told me that once you got back home, your partner at the time, or your boyfriend, they gave you a medal, first of all.
Yeah, a West Highland Way medal engraved.
that's
I don't think you got one of those.
I don't got one of those.
Oh,
But then you sent me a photo and you were up some mountains in Wales.
Pennyvan in Wales, yeah. And then I've got a plan. I don't know why I always want to walk in the winter when it gets light really early. But
Yes.
I've got a plan to do some of the Pennine Way
Wow.
in November.
Oh,
Excellent.
and do it on your own, or are you going to
Yeah,
just see
I
what
like the
random
madness.
person you meet?
probably, yeah. Another actor.
Oh, yeah, I mean, they're all over the mountains these days, aren't
I
they?
get the impression that you actually didn't like meeting Sam on the West Highland Way.
Yes.
So I like a bit of solitude. So did you ever imagine that it would lead to the Barbican Theatre and sitting on stage here? So anyway, Lucy, thank you very much indeed for coming on stage. and
Lucy,
sharing-
thank you so much.
Lucy,
We're going to have a wee dram after.
again, I'm just standing up and waving from a distance. Thank you, Lucy.
Incredible. And to do it on your own as well, 4
And to have
days.
such a massive Outlander fan. That was tremendous.
She is.
Lucy, thank you very much indeed. Right, questions here as we get towards the end of things here.
I'm going to pour us a dram while you read a question.
Someone's asking if they can grab a platonic whiskey after the talk. If you're going to ask that
Platonic.
question, why would it be platonic? Just go the full hog there. We're gonna what's your, and we've done Paulina, oh dear, there's so many questions. What's next for you from Denise? What have you not done you'd still like to try? Actually, quite a couple of people have talked about Bond, James Bond.
I poured you I shouldn't say, I poured you an English measure.
So,
It's actually a thing. 25 mils down here.
yeah, English measure.
A dram's 35. Extra 10 mil, that's all that.
While we drink this, and I show just what a lightweight I am for a Scot, you can savor it. You can tell us what it was like auditioning, at least for James Bond, because that came
Yes.
quite early. Do you think you were ready for that?
Yeah, no, it was back. They were doing Bond 21, which Daniel Craig obviously went on to do. And wow, put hairs on your chest.
That's really smooth.
Can I be honest with you? This is not my whiskey.
Well, it's Sassenach.
Well, it's not. It's a bottle. I flew down today, and so I couldn't bring a bottle on my flight because I wasn't checking in luggage. So they filled it up with something. I don't know what it is. It's darker. It's stronger. Make me sweat. But yeah, Bond would drink that straight from the bottle.
Connery would drink that.
Yes, for sure.
But that must be. But even to get to the point of auditioning for, I'm really loosening up now. My goodness.
Right.
Even to get to the point of auditioning for Bond, that must be such a thrill just at the prospect. And Barbara Broccoli was there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no. So they were doing Bond 21, and I think they were looking at a younger Bond at the time. I think they were going to reboot it. And a number of people, I mean, I know Henry Cavill and a number of other guys were up for it. But it was all very cloak and dagger. They sent you a script, but didn't say what it was, and it wasn't, Bond, but it was something very similar. And I met at Eon House, which is on Green Park, just on past the Ritz down there, and went in and read the scene, and they were like, "Okay, you've made it to the next level." Took me upstairs, and I walked in, and Barbara Broccoli was there, and the director as well. But on the table was the golden gun. I sat there with it pointed at me. No, it was sitting in a glass case, and we talked about around Bond, never really saying you're up for this part, but you are up for this part. And I left kind of slightly deflated and not really feeling like I'd had the opportunity to show what I could do. It's a very odd situation, but maybe I wasn't right for it. I think at the time as well. I think he was a young actor, inexperienced really. So it will be interesting to see where they go with it next. It's a difficult one, definitely.
Yeah, is that, I don't know, I suppose it's a goal for any actor, any male actor, that Bond would be the sort of...
Yeah, I mean, it totally is in a way. And I did a film called The Spy Who Dumped Me, which is kind of a bit of a thank you. It's a it's an action comedy, but the character I play is essentially a sort of Bond-esque character. And I was listening a lot to Kenneth Branagh's version of audiobook of Casino Royale, and that sort of helped me get into it. But again, I feel like Bond has certainly been done, and they have to do something with it new, and I don't know where they're going to go with that. But I've been lucky. I did SAS Red Notice, which was a movie based on a number of books, based on a real-life guy, Andy McNabb, who is one of the most decorated special forces operators in the UK. He's also, aids the government in crisis as well, but he's got a number of things going on. But what's most interesting about him is that he is a psychopath. Literally a good psychopath. He's done a number of studies with Oxford University and written books about it, about being a psychopath. So to work with him and to learn about him, and my character was also a good psychopath, was fascinating. So in a way, I feel like I've kind of played that character in some ways.
Yeah, a couple of questions here on the future. Janine, hi Sam, do you have any plans for anything new you can share with us? What about Everest?
Oh, yes. Yes, well, I was supposed to be doing a movie all about George Mallory, who back in the 1920s, it's believed that he actually made it to the top. He was the first to reach Everest. And literally at that time, they were wearing tweed jackets and, nothing. I think they took champagne with them and, all this crazy stuff. And they got up to, well, they believe himself and Sandy Irving, they got to the top. They believe that. The last time they were saw, I believe, was about 800 meters from the top. Someone way down at base camp looking at them through a spyglass. They could see them walking fast, making good headway, and then the storm came in. And they were never seen again. Years later, I think in the 1990s or
1999.
They found his body. They found perfectly preserved.
They found Sandy Irving.
They found Mallory, I believe.
Well, I can't remember if it was Mallory or Irving. We're losing. The whiskey's doing strange things to me now. So
no, I think they
found a body, and that's all that matters. I'll fight you.
They did it. Take this outside, Cotter. No, I think they found Mallory because they knew that because he still had his tweed jacket on the back of his label.
There was Conrad Anker, an American mountaineer.
That's it, Conrad, yeah.
And he was wearing what they thought was Sandy Irving's jacket, but it was Mallory. So
it was Mallory's.
I'm just going to ease off this Sassenach whiskey.
Have another. It's not the Sassenach, you're all right.
Here, I've got a good question coming up here. No, this is from Ginger Jackson in Albuquerque. New Mexico.
Yes. We'll say hello to everyone online. There's a live streaming.
I know, a
of
live
this
stream.
as well.
So Ginger is watching this in Albuquerque.
Hello, Albuquerque.
I'll be walking the West Highland Way in September 2023. What is the one thing I should not be without for that trip?
The one thing you should not be without. There are so many things that I took and shouldn't have taken, and other things I never. I don't know if anyone here is a fan of a walking pole.
Oh yeah. So why did you hate them at the start?
Well, they look a bit stupid, don't they? I'm like, I didn't want to be those walking pole wankers, excuse me. Like, I'm going to do this easy, no bother. And you see these people like this, and I'm like, what do they think they are? Day 2, I'm like, walking poles, yes, yes, yes. Save my life.
You can use your upper body, that's the thing.
They can't. It takes off a lot of pressure on your hips. I know you have trouble with your hips, Andrew. You should maybe use them now.
It's harsh. I'm a young, virile man. What are you talking
Well, you
about?
are, but I know you. Yes, but anyway, the walking poles, you know, despite my disdain of them initially, they did save me on day 2, and I didn't use them again because I dumped all of my equipment on the side of the walk and left it there. The only thing I did take was the walking poles, and I promised myself I would take them all the way. Even though I didn't use them, I took them all the way to the top of Ben Nevis.
Diane Montoya, what a great name. Why do you dismount horses the way that you do? Well,
Why
I
wouldn't you?
confess I'm a little bit on Lucy's side of things in that I love Outlander,
Andrew.
but I haven't seen Outlander.
Oh, shame,
Does-
shame. Another one of you heathens.
I'm a very busy man with my dogs to walk.
Yes.
So does he dismount horses in an odd way? What?
It's not odd.
Okay, go back to Alexander the Great filming
Ah.
in Egypt then.
So, well, no, Jamie Fraser's dismount is, I just...
Did you lie in an audition once and say you could ride horses to get the
I've
job?
lied a lot, yeah. Probably lying now. No, I have lied a lot when it comes to horses. The first time was I was doing a Western, a Billy the Kid. I was playing John Tunstall, and we were filming in Almeria. It was the set of all the spaghetti Western sets. Yes, Almeria. And it was so fun. All these British actors, you know, doing cod Western Southern accents, and I had to ride this horse. Never had any experience. A posse coming riding after me, and I had to ride down a ravine. When I got on the horse, they told me that the horse wasn't trained for gunfire. So this posse comes galloping towards me, firing guns, and the horse just bolted. And I somehow survived, no idea how. And we stopped, and the horse looked at me like, let's not do that again. And the director came up and was like, would you mind doing another one? And I was just literally shaking. Somehow survived that to then lie again. When asked if I could ride for a film that I shot in Egypt. And I said, yeah, of course I can ride. I was born in a farm and grew up with horses. Never been on one. And I was playing young Alexander the Great, and there was a point where all these extras in this castle, and I had to ride out very heroically to the center of the castle, and they're all cheering, Alexander, Iskander. And as I rode out, you know, the horse, this Arabic stallion, just bolted, and I ended up charging across the desert in full armor, just holding on for dear life until the horse finally stopped.
I like the artifice of film and television as well, in that
Yes.
when you were on a horse, you were actually on top of an Egyptian taxi.
Well, I mean, why wouldn't you? Yes. No, I think after that scene, they realized that maybe I wasn't quite the equestrian that I'd claimed to be. And they wanted a shot of me on the horse looking majestic as young Alexander the Great from Macedonia. And they decided in Cairo to get a taxi, a local taxi, and put a seat on it. And then dressed half in armor and headdress and half in very trendy Adidas sweatpants. I sat on top of the taxi and we drove around Cairo, and I'm doing this. Alexander the Great. Yeah, it was a very proud moment.
Yeah, acting is an odd, but I
Very
imagine
strange.
very fulfilling profession. Actually, there's a question. At what age did you go to drama school? Well, we know, but do you have any tips for an upcoming actor?
Ah, wow. Yeah, so I went when I was 20, and I guess that's the first thing. I did take 2 years out, and I did travel a lot. I tried to get as much experience as I could. As I said, I worked as an usher. I went to the Lyceum Youth Theatre, which was very instrumental in I guess, starting my career. So I say it's just to get as much experience as you can. London is an amazing place for theatre and live shows. I played here at the Duchess Theatre in the West End. I did a show called The Plague Over England, which was a really interesting play about John Gielgud and being being arrested for cottaging at the time. But it was a really interesting play because it was written by Nicholas de Jong, who was a theatre critic at the time. But yes, I mean, I just think go see as much as you can, even if you don't enjoy the piece or whatever. There's always something to learn, so get as much experience as you can.
Right. What's cottaging? I think we all know, we're all grown-ups, and it is building a small cottage in the Cotswolds.
Yes.
And then selling it on for an inflated price. That's
Gilgood,
what I
notorious
believe
for
cottaging
building properties
is.
around the world. Yes.
Let's just believe that's what cottaging is.
Yes.
And move on. So, right, I think we've got to draw.
What is cottaging? Anyone know?
Oh dear, this is where I thought this conversation was going to go. Where would you like
Could
to
you
live?
explain? Yes.
Angelica, where would you like to live when you retire? Where in the
Retire?
world? I know, we're looking.
Is that it? Am I
Or
done?
Where would you like to live? Full stop. I mean, you live in Scotland at the moment.
I live in Scotland. This God's own country. I mean, look, I do love the lifestyle in Scotland. It's beautiful. It will always be home. But and I do spend a lot of time in America. But actually, you know what I really want to do? I've been in New York a lot recently, and I obviously love the theatre scene there, and I would love to spend some time in New York. So I think I'm going to do that.
You're going to do it, all right,
Yeah.
excellent. That's
Yeah.
excited the American fans, and work on Broadway maybe. And
Well, Broadway, I'd love to. And also, I'm a huge American sports fan. I love American football, baseball. I don't know, it's probably the things that come with it, the beer and the hot dog, but it's an event, and I do love that.
Right, there are two
So
questions.
I'm waiting for you to commentate on one of them.
That's where my career is going. So there are two questions together here. One, Ali Marahene is asking you to do a handstand, but I think that's for obvious reasons. So, I see her game.
I could give that a go. Would you commentate on it? Like,
I would not.
If it was the Olympics or something.
I've commentated on many strange things in my time, but nobody wants
Kilted
that.
handstands. That
Actually,
could be a new sport.
Lots of people do. Right, we're going to end on this question here, because it's a test for your acting abilities.
Uh-oh.
Alisa, after all these years, can you now do a Canadian accent? It's all about the outs, isn't it?
What's a lot of boot?
It's a boot
No,
now.
clearly not. I am. If asked to, I will have to go and study that one.
Yeah,
But,
exactly. You need to study that one. It is a tricky one.
It is no one really knows what the difference is, do they?
No, exactly. It's right. Okay, Harry, let me get
Tough
another
crowd.
question. Curly Whirly, yes or no? We can't end on
Curly
that
Whirly,
question.
yes.
Here we go. Hang on. Did you like that
Yes,
present?
well, I must say thank you so much. We had a number of presents given to us, including this, whatever that is. And
Hang on a minute. Was this given to you by somebody and you're just passing it off to me? I mean,
no,
I might fall
I
asleep.
drank it all, to be honest. But no, thank you, because we always do. The fans are very generous, and we had a number of great presents yesterday and today as well. So thank you, and I hope you.
Glenafric.
Glenafric.
I love Glenafric.
Yes.
Are you from Glenafric?
Are you from?
We're
Not
getting
from
quite
Aberdeen,
niche,
is she?
niche
No.
Highlands knowledge now. Right, final question then.
Final question then.
Okay, do you listen to music when hiking? Do you prefer to fully absorb yourself in your surroundings? Danny from South Wales. And what's your favourite track? Was another question coming in. What's your favourite music?
Music. To be honest, I would say no. I don't. I mean, I just want to take in everything, and you start to really, once you're hiking, you start to really notice things. You'll see the rain coming from down the glen. You know you're going to get drenched very soon. But also, you just notice the changes in things and the wildlife, the mushrooms. But I do have a tradition, actually. Whenever I am on a very long hike, I did one recently up Benaglow, which is a ridge walk up near Aberfeldy. It was a beautiful walk, but it took me about 7 hours, and it was wonderful. But I have this tradition that on the way down, if I am getting tired and I want to, get a bit more energy, I'll put on Blackbird by Martin Bennett. And I knew Martin Bennett way back when I was a teenage boy working in an African cafe. And he was a great musician from the Isle of Mull, I think, or maybe his family was from Skye, but he lived in Mull. But he would mix together traditional Gaelic storytelling and folk music with dance music. He was notorious for playing the pipes to dance music. And we unfortunately lost him when I went to drama school, he died, I think, of cancer, but his music is fantastic. And there's one song, Blackbird, it's been used by multiple people. I don't know if you know Danny McCaskill. He's a great Scottish mountain biker, does these great tricks. And if you've not seen it, check it out. He does one especially on the Isle of Skye, where he goes up the inaccessible pinnacle, which is also a Munro, and you have to like mountain climb up it. He goes up with his bike and then cycles all the way down. It's incredible scenery. He's an incredible man, and the music is Blackbird by Martin Bennett.
Yeah, he is incredible, and the in-pin is something else. So, listen, I'm sorry, there's so many questions, but we just don't have enough time. It's 9:30, and I said, well, we're going to be finished by 9:30. We could talk.
You've got to get back to Olive and Mabel.
I've got to get back to Olive
They'll
and
be
Mabel
missing you.
because the welcome I get from them was quite something.
Oh,
So,
I bet.
listen, it's been a joy. We're going to drink a little bit more of this
We are.
non-Sassenach out there, but
The fake Sassenach. And I hope you all enjoy the book. Really, thank you so much for all coming and joining us. Thank you.
well, listen, we have enjoyed hearing so much about your career and your life, and it is so much of it is in this book. It is a beautiful book, so I hope you enjoy it. I know you'll continue to enjoy the rest of Sam's career, wherever it may go. But one more time, please, applause for Sam.
Thank you so
Heughan.
much. Thank you all. Good night.